Good morning, everyone. Last night, totally unsolicited, I wasn't even on Google. This joke came to me in my email, so I'm going to share it with you because in the reading, the story of Adam and Eve is alluded to and has some great significance, actually, in the reading and in the talk. So there's a little boy who goes to Sunday school every week, and one week he's really intrigued with the story of Adam and Eve. He's listening to his teacher say that Adam was created out of dust and breath, and then that Eve was created, of course, signifying all women, from Adam's rib. So he comes home and tells his mother this is what they discussed. Then later in the week, the mother walks into the living room at some point and sees her little boy lying on his side, groaning. And she says, "Honey, what's wrong?" And he said, "I have this terrible pain in my side. I think I'm having a wife." Sure. Really glad you laughed. I wanted to read again the two lines from the reading. The first is where it says, in describing the story of Adam and Eve, and that's not actually the main topic of this reading. We do come back to it later in the year. And Master's commentary on it, Yogananda's commentary on it, is actually fascinating. But in this reading, it first says, the story of Adam and Eve describes how the first human beings dissipated their spiritual energy centered in the spine. Basically, when God said to Adam and Eve, "Don't eat the fruit from that tree," and in fact, Eve couldn't resist the fruit, and then Adam couldn't resist Eve, which sounds a lot about how things go to this day. The commentary here says that instead of holding the energy still and centered, that energy was dissipated. And then Swamiji goes on to say, when the sap, which is to say the energy, flows downward, the consciousness is drawn into delusion. On the other hand, when the energy is drawn upward in deep meditation, the consciousness is drawn toward its eternal source, God, and is at last united with him. And I just wanted to read that again because the title of this talk is, of course, The Inner Kingdom. And so many of us in this room, we know what we're talking about when we're talking about the inner kingdom. We're talking about exactly that spine that is pure astral energy. And we're saying, in essence, that's where everything that we need, that we want, everything that will take us upward to our eternal source in God resides. And so it sort of begs the question, as many of these readings do, why are we not all doing that? Why are we not all free? Because when Christ speaks about it in the Bible or Krishna in the Gita, then we read Swami Kriyananda's commentaries. It always sounds so easy. It sounds not even necessarily easy, but just so clear. And yet, finding our way back to that inner kingdom is not at all easy. It's not simple, it's not easy. And somehow we wander, again, Yogananda tells us, for perhaps 10 million lives. Imagine, we're focusing on one life now, but it can take millions and millions of lives for us to find our way back. Last night I thought, boy, I wonder why we're not all more angry at Eve. That's where the whole problem started. But we never talk about Eve. But had she not eaten that quote unquote forbidden fruit, we probably wouldn't be in this mess, because God was saying to them, everything that you need to experience true love, pure joy, even to create children, is already within you. But it's very hard for us to know that. And it was clearly impossible for Eve, which is, of course, as Swamiji says, it's an allegory. But allegories are what they are because they tell a basic truth about all of us. So I was trying to remember this morning, and I can't pull up all of the facts. I'm sorry I didn't look it up last night. But Swami Kriyananda gave a talk once where he talked about how recent it is that we are actually learning about our universe. Before we even knew there was a universe, wasn't that long ago. In the 1800s, we didn't even know there was a universe. So, I mean, the 1800s, so 200 years ago maybe, in that period of time, so much is being discovered. Now, I don't have the data exactly right, but I do believe he said in that talk that it was in the early 1900s, like 1980 or 1920, when scientists realized, Hubble, I think it was Hubble, who discovered, I'm looking over here and Stephen's shaking his head, yes, so I feel really great already. You laughed at my joke and I got Hubble right. Discovered that there were galaxies and came out, as many of us have studied, with this statement, and it's not just our galaxy. This is 1918, 100 years ago. But there are at least, he said, 2 or 3 galaxies. And we were all awed by that. And now we know there are billions. I mean, it's not a long time to discover that much truth. And even given that, Yogananda, who is, of course, an avatar in this age of energy, says that the universe is inconceivably vast. That's what he says. Those are his words somewhere. He said, but as vast as the universe is, the physical universe. So now, billions of galaxies, he says, it pales in comparison to the inner universe. I mean, imagine, this is a man who only speaks truth. And then he made that statement where somebody asked him, what happens after we dive deeper and deeper and deeper in meditation? Do we come to an end? And he said, no, there is no end. You just keep going into infinity. Now, that's also complicated for us because the mind can't grasp the notion of infinity. We write it, we can do equations with it, we can use the word, and we get the idea that it means really a lot. But we don't really know what it means. And he said that's what happens. That's what his poem Samadhi is about. These are all sayings from that great poem that he wrote, trying to describe, not trying, successfully, as soon as we can understand it, describing what does that look and feel like, because most of us would have no idea. Now, here's a bit of a paradox for almost all of us, and that is the deeper in that we go on this spiritual path, the deeper in we go, the freer we are. The deeper in we go, the more vast is our existence. The deeper into what we would call ourselves we go, the freer we are. It's sort of counterintuitive to the human mind. We think of coming in to ourselves, on ourselves, as being less. But in fact, because of this astral spine, because of the energy there, because of this concept of inner communion, which we've been told takes us into infinity, the more that we can come in, the more freedom we know. And everything that we want, and we know this, everything that we want to be free only exists in there. That is where we are finally liberated. And many people in this room, as I look around, we've studied this. We know about it. We know about Patanjali's first Yoga Sutra that says, and now we come to the study of the practice of yoga, now implying something has been coming for a long time before. And that something we call Shanti, different philosophy, but that is the stage of the soul's evolution where the soul keeps trying to convince itself that what it needs to be free, to know great joy, to feel satisfied, to have fun, to have whatever it is it thinks it wanted was out there. That's really a gross minimization, but if you'll spare me that for here, that's Shanti. Now Patanjali says, now we're going to study yoga. In essence, now we're going to find the truth. And for those of us who have at least stepped foot onto this path of yoga, we're finding out, and we find it out very quickly, that there's truth in that. It doesn't take much meditation or contemplation or prayer or coming to some Sunday services or classes where you begin to feel, long before any of us can commit ourselves to this path of self-realization, we start saying to ourselves, feels like there's something to this. I want a little more of it. Swami Jaya, who's now living at the village, tells a wonderful story of giving a talk one day somewhere in India. And he said, he felt, even as he was giving the talk, he says this about himself, maybe I was speaking over the heads of most people. That's what he said. He said, but after the talk, a woman came up to him and said, you know, I feel like I'm a good woman, and I feel like I want to do good things, but I'm not really interested in everything you're talking about. And it's way over my head. Isn't it enough that I just want to do good things? And Jaya said he realized her dilemma, and he said to her, he said, you know, it is really good that you want to do good things. I wish I knew another million people like you who want to do good things. He said, but I'm going to make a prediction to you right now, and that is that someday you'll be doing good things, good works, and you will have a feeling in your heart where you know there's more. And you will be hungry for that, whatever that is, that much more. And he said, it's not that it's wrong where you are, but you will want more. And he said, sure enough, she came back to him and said to him, you were right. Now I'm feeling there's more, and I want more. And that is the beginning. That is the first step of moving towards this place of inner communion, that we have to actually want it. And it sounds silly. I mean, here you are, you've all made your way here on a Sunday, and you could be saying to yourself, why is she saying this? But every one of us, if we're honest, we know we want what we want when we want it, basically. That's the id, another part of us that's just as meaningful as the ego, and that's what it says. So we want things when it's convenient, when it's not too embarrassing, when it's not too hard, when the stretch doesn't feel like it's going to be too big. What it takes to decide to make that stretch, to make the commitment, to go through the hard parts, that's what it means to really want it. I've shared many of these stories with many of you, but very often when I was practicing medicine, I would say to people when they came in, this sounds like an odd thing for an internal medicine doc to say, but such was the nature of my practice. Are you sure you want to be well? And they would look at me. People would say, of course I want to be well, sort of offended. But the truth is that in more instances than I'm happy to share, when people started getting well, they didn't have that which could ground them. They didn't have, I could say excuses for certain things, many ways that people would hold on to being sick rather than be well. And there were times, and I can remember exactly who some of the people are, where they would just leave the practice because they were feeling too good. There was nothing grounding them. So, and I'm not making fun of those people. Quite frankly, I'll speak for myself. I'm doing that spiritually. Of course, I know I am. I could step into spiritual liberation and freedom right now. Yogananda, Kriyananda, they both tell us time is an illusion. Realization doesn't take time. It takes right attitude, right-mindedness, commitment. In just a moment, we could slip into it in our next meditation if we could calm our minds, calm our hearts, decide that we're not so intrigued with our emotions anymore, with our personalities. But for every one of us, this is a very hard thing to do. So we need that desire, and it's got to be real. There's another story that's been told many times by many teachers that says if a baby's crying, like either Adu or Arush is right now, I don't want to embarrass it. It's Arush. I see Adu sitting there. It's crying. What do the parents do? First, they walk it around. First, they'll give it a toy. They'll give it a snack to eat. They'll do something. The mother only comes and picks up that baby when the baby will not quit screaming. And that's an illustration of our lives. God isn't going to just come to us. We need to demonstrate that we are serious about this, that we really want God. We have to be open to receive him. I was just listening to Lahari speak about our purification ceremony this morning. Week after week after week, I seek purification by the grace of God. That phrase is so powerful. It takes great humility to come and kneel before a light bearer and trust that that person is acting as a channel for God and to say those words. But what does the Master say back to us? Open your heart to me. You do that, I will enter, and I will take charge of your life. These are our practices, if you will, to get us closer to God, to find our way. They are the path to this inner kingdom. Then we have to practice using our intuition. I was thinking last night when I was making this list about the series, The Chosen, which I've spoken about here before, which I find to be a really remarkable series, as do many, many people throughout the world, hence it's been very successful. But one of the things that is one of many things that's very compelling about that series is the moment where each of the disciples, one by one, realize that they are in the presence of a great teacher. And you watch it in them, and they suddenly know these are just, fishermen and farmers and goat herders. They're not scholarly people. They're not all rabbis, not at all. But somehow they could listen to their heart and realize that they were in the presence of something great. And they put down everything in their lives. This is what the disciples did to follow Jesus, even though in terms of the masses, it wasn't like the masses were saying, oh, good Lord, you're so lucky you got to go with Jesus. To the masses, it was blasphemous, but they were willing to do it because they knew it in their heart. I don't know somehow how this half hour went. I don't think I've been speaking for a half hour. Time is an illusion. I want to yell at whoever sang or read or you took up too much time. This is why. Yeah. Where's Shantala? You read too slowly. I'm teasing, of course, but I am totally surprised that it's almost 11. I'm going to go on for a few minutes because I will get right to the gist of what I wanted to say here. And that is, obviously, God, the divine, is already within us. And that living presence is here at the point between the eyebrows. And it's a magnet, and it's a very strong magnet. Unfortunately, at the base of our spine is an equal, if not stronger, seemingly to us, an opposite magnet. We call it Maya, we call it Satan, we call it Kundalini. You can call it what you want, but it's pulling us down with enormous strength, and it keeps us believing, as I said before, not just that what we want is out there, but what we think we want will bring us happiness. Now, it takes a long time to get where we are, where we begin to know, and this is the secret. We're all aware from any basic meditation that we're trying to draw energy up our spine. We're trying to bring energy here. But what we think and how most of us live is in terms of what life is doing to us. That's how most people in the world live. This is happening to me. It's a concept. And even as I look around, people have been on this path at least as long as me, maybe longer. We can get caught in that. How could that happen? Or, wow, this is hard. And in those moments, we forget that everything that matters, including us, is pure energy, and that it's not the circumstance that's harmful or bad. It's the energy of it. So if there's energy that is pulling us down, we think that's bad. If there's energy that's drawing us up, nights with a friend, a good meditation, a great talk by one of our gurubhais, we think that what's happening is good. Of course it is, because energy's flowing and moving. But the most important thing for us to remember is that we can have complete control of that energy. That's what pranayama means, controlling the energy. That's what Kriya Yoga is about, controlling the energy so that we can, at will, have ourselves feeling better. We can, at will, experience joy. We can, at will, open our hearts and feel the love of God. It's nothing that has to happen out there. It's all here. That a universe that's more vast than billions of galaxies exists within us. And we can take charge of it with practice, with right attitude, with, again, right-mindedness, with positive thinking. And positive thinking is singularly the most important thing, because when we have a positive thought, energy rises. When we have a negative, judgmental, greedy, angry thought, energy drops. And then things go that way. And it looks like it's out there, but it's totally in here. As soon as we can learn to begin to take charge of the energy, we will no longer feel that life is living us, but rather that we are living life. I'm going to tell you one beautiful story that Ananda told about Swami Kriyananda in a talk years ago. She said, Swamiji, for many years, as many of you know, we had, let me just think of the right word for it. We have a little bit of a tumultuous relationship, and I think more in the past, but still, with Self-Realization Fellowship. But that's where Swamiji was spiritually born and raised. And he always said to us, and he still does, it's in his will, his last will and testament, if ever we can make peace, become one again with SRF, we should try and do that. But nonetheless, be that as it may, for many years, it was way, way less than pleasant. Swamiji would often say, this is according to Ananda, because I wasn't there for this. I mean, I didn't myself hear Swamiji say this. I'm going to write one more letter. I think for sure this will open their hearts and they'll see, and it wouldn't work. Now, I'm going to send them a copy of my new book. I'm sure when they read this new book, then they'll open their hearts and there will be peace. And it went on and on until somebody at Ananda, this is after now some years, went to Swamiji and said to him, why do you keep saying that? You certainly must see that it's not working and it's not going to work. And Swamiji, just as he did, went deep inside, and then he looked at her and he said to her, I can't afford to think that way. What an incredible statement. I can't afford to think that way. Now, that was big. I'm telling in the context of SRF and Ananda. But here's the truth. None of us can ever afford to think that way. We can never afford, if we want to find true love, if we want to know peace, if we want to experience contentment, joy, and final liberation, we cannot afford to think that way. Just last week, I caught myself. I was talking with Jyotish and Devi, and they were saying something to me about somebody. This person's so wonderful, and we really like them, and they're so, whatever they were saying. And I said, it's true, they are, but, you know? And it came back to me later, and I went to them an hour later, and I said, I'm so sorry that I did that. Where does that come from? That's ego. That is pure ego. I can't afford to think that way. None of us can. It's moment by moment by moment that makes up this lifetime. And it's not just time, it's energy. Where did that thought take me? I was in the company of my spiritual teachers, and there I was with a negative thought about somebody who's perfectly lovely. It was, I mean, it's such a bizarre example for me, and yet I did it. Then I started asking myself, how often do you do that, Shanti? Pay attention. Not that we're telling ourselves lies. Swamiji said, don't be so open-minded that your brain falls out. You have to be clear and real and notice people around us. You know, you don't want to have somebody pointing a pistol in your face and saying, oh, but you're so sweet and pure. We're not quite there yet, most of us. Yogananda could do that. But the truth is, that's not judgmental. That's honesty, that's wisdom in and of itself. But the judgment, the yes buts, when there's no cause for it, no, none of us can afford to think that way. So positive thinking, and this is where I started with this when Swamiji said, I can't afford to think that way. We just had the most beautiful example of it. We haven't been able to finalize this yet, but within a day or two, we will. We had this fundraiser, which many of you know about. And we set this goal that was absurd for us to raise $130,000. It was a dinner, it was a little dinner. We have been able to buy a farm and build a school. We've done a lot, but by pure positive energy magnetism, yes. But to invite people over for a couple of hours and think we were going to bring in 130, but we said, no, we're going to set the goal there. Right now, just from what came in at that dinner, we are just below $200,000 because we all said, no, we're going for it. We cannot afford to think, oh, we can't do that. No, this is what moving towards the inner kingdom means. It means keeping your mind in the right place. It means remembering that every thought that you have has magnetism, and that it can either bring you up or take you down. Every thought. This is why Yogananda said the minutes are more important than the years, right? Watch your thoughts, watch the moments. Know that God is just here, waiting, just waiting for us to find our way back into that, to remember that we are pure energy and that we can be absolutely, every person in this room right now, perfectly in control of that. And then truly find everything we ever thought we wanted.
On your heart has played the dancer, on your